Apologies for the delay. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, depending on where you're watching this from. Been a crazy day, lots of moves, a lot of things I'm still catching up on. So make sure that if I'm missing something, that you pointed out to me in the comment section, and we will talk to it. We will address it. But there's a lot to talk about. We always know that transfer deadline days are insanely hectic, chaotic, whatever word you want to use to describe it. And today is right on cue, right on brand for a deadline day. And just a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. Uh, Before we get into it, though, guys, make sure you give this stream a like down below. Share with a friend. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. So, one of the first things that was surprising, I think, was a couple of days ago when it was announced that Paxten Aaronson was being sold to the Colorado Rapids at 21 years old. Now, I do think he'll turn 22 this month. He's not exactly, I mean, he's still relatively young, but he's about to be 22. But he had a good season at Utrecht in the Eredivisie, and I think he was, if he didn't win the Young Player of the Year, he was like the runner up or in contention. He had a really good year, and it looked like he was going to, get a move to another club in the Big Five leagues. But he decides to come to Major League Soccer at 21 years old and go to the Colorado Rapids, which I think might be the most surprising part about the whole thing. And I was under the impression, if you told me Aaronson, and I actually sent this to my friend Adam Turner, I sent him that this move was going to happen, the tweet, and he said, "Oh, really? Well, I'm not surprised. He's 26." And I'm like, well, Paxton's only 21. He goes, "Oh, I just assumed it was Brendan." I agree. I thought if one of the brothers were going to move to or come back to Major League Soccer at this point, it was going to be Brendan Aaronson, not Paxten Aaronson. But the Colorado Rapids signed him, which will be a Jordi Mihailovic replacement and an upgrade, in my opinion. Obviously, I think it's an upgrade based on the age and the potential still, and um, what he was able to do in the Eredivisie, where Jordi Mihailovic completely failed in the Eredivisie. So he comes over on a 5-year deal. If I'm not mistaken, his transfer fee will be somewhere along the lines of $7.5 million to, I think he can get up to $9 million with with add-ons if he hits certain stat lines, right? And he's going to be one of the highest paid players, maybe not in MLS. I don't know how much money he's gonna make with the Rapids. I don't think we've got that number yet, but you would have to assume he's probably gonna be making like $2 to $3 million a year. So he's gonna get a pay increase. He's gonna be in MLS for the next 5 years. And also, too, one thing I have to point out, and I tweeted about this, is that Mauricio Pochettino has shown that playing in Major League Soccer does not hurt your stock. Playing in Major League Soccer does not hurt your stock. It doesn't, as long as you're playing well, that's all that matters. So I think that a move like this came to fruition because Paxten Aaronson doesn't believe coming here at 21 is going to hurt his standing with the USMNT. Now, Pochettino is obviously only going to be the manager guaranteed till 2026. The new manager might feel differently when Paxton's like 22, 23 years old. But for now, if he wants to make the World Cup roster in 2026, being in MLS is not going to hurt his stock. Now, a lot of people were crashing out about this, saying some weird stuff about that. What was it? They need to pull certain U.S. Prospects out of academies of MLS. Now, that's really weird. I wasn't going that far. I just said I was surprised that he would come here at this age. That's all I'm saying. So, interesting move. Don't know how much it moves the needle for the Rapids because they still think they have a lot of holes, and I don't think they're really ready to compete. But it's a positive step in the right direction. I think it's an upgrade over Jordi Mihailovic. And we'll see if Paxten Aaronson can be the guy for the Colorado Rapids. I don't know what you guys think about that signing. Let's see. Mr. says, hi, Will. Nick Smith says, hi, Big Willie style. Eric says, did POV Miami deal fall off? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Nick Smith says, see, Cruz Azul. Yep, they wouldn't. And we'll discuss that a little bit because of certain deals and MLS intricacies, mechanisms, some of the rules of why maybe it didn't go through. Mr. says it'll be so much bigger when the schedule changes to August to May. Yeah, because this will be going into our preseason for the league. So all these players will actually be able to acclimate to their team rather than trying to fit in midway through the season. Because keep in mind, Paxten Aaronson, while it's a pretty big move, is only going to have 9 to 10 games of the rest of the season to fully integrate, get accustomed to his new coach, his new team, his new city, all these new things. It's going to be difficult, honestly. Misael says, do we truly believe it's going to be all downhill for Paxten? Now, I don't know if it's going to be all downhill for him, but I do think that this is a little disappointing from a USMNT standpoint because I do think he was good enough to play in the Bundesliga, a lower end Serie A team. I don't think he was going to play in the Premier League or anything like that. But I do think he could have kept improving and improving his stock. And I think that his ceiling was still really high. I don't know if he'll ever reach his ceiling. Cringe says, hey, Will, Mr. says, I know some people are complaining about Paxten going to Colorado, but this is another way of improving the league. That's the way if he plays well. Barry with a super chat 20. Appreciate Barry says, I'm starting to crash out with 4 summers in a row with no moves. The Seattle Sounders, Hen Hour out. We will talk about the Seattle Sounders here as well because we're going to talk about some teams who didn't make any moves, which is frustrating because there a lot of teams in MLS, like I say all the time, are not built to win an MLS Cup. If you're not built to win an MLS Cup, you should be making moves and being proactive. A lot of teams are just not doing anything, rolling with the same team, hoping for better results. Not going to happen. Cringe says, do you think Inter Miami will make new signings? Also, is it true Fafa is being transferred to Montreal? That is a rumor. I think there's a good chance that will happen. Yes. Let's see. Mr. says there'll be more U.S. prospects going back to MLS in the future as the league improves. I believe that there might be 1 to 2 moves lined up for the wintertime. I think there's 1 to 2 moves of USMNT players who might come back this winter to get some playing time. So we will see what happens. Okay, so let's move on to the next move. A lot of stuff to cover here. A lot of stuff. I'm still catching up. Like I said, if I miss something, let me know in the comment section. Comment down below. You let me know if I'm missing a move that you want me to cover. But this next move is by Pete O'Rourke, excuse me. Brighton midfielder Andrew Moran has flown out to America to finalize his loan move to LAFC before the MLS transfer window deadline. Now, LAFC have needed a number 10, I think. If anyone has watched any of the LAFC matches this season or even last year, everyone knows that they have been missing a creative midfielder. They need someone who can set up essentially anyone in the attack. They need someone who can create chances. They don't have that. They just don't. And you saw in the most recent games with Sonny how far he was having to play back to get the attack going, to try to create things. So this isn't exactly the move I would have made because they do have a DP spot open, but they are going to sign Andrew Moran on a loan deal, and he will be a U22 signing. And I'm assuming he's from Brighton, and I think he has only played at the championship level. He's been on loan. He's 21 years old. He plays for the Irish national team. And I've seen some very hit or miss reports on him as a player, that he's very frustrating, that he's not good, that he's got promise, nothing concrete, nothing. There's not like a unanimous consensus with him. So that's a little bit interesting, but I will say this. LAFC, of all the teams in Major League Soccer, LAFC has had the best hit rate on U22 signings. They've had the best hit rate on U22 signings. They had Kike Oliveira. They had Sifu Fuentes. They had Matty Bogush. Who else have they had? There's another one I'm missing. I'm just trying to think. Now, Buke was not very good, but they have had a very good hit rate with U22s, probably the best in Major League Soccer. So we'll see if he's any good. We'll see what he can do. T Max says Orlando has a better hit rate on U22s. Yeah, but to be fair, they sign a lot more U22s. They are churning them out and selling them and replacing them. So Orlando might have a better hit rate, but to be fair, LAFC definitely are taking more swings. So we'll see if he can solve these issues. I'm a little bit skeptical. I just don't think that a U22 is going to be the deciding factor to ignite the attack and help fix their deficiencies, but we will see. We will see what happens. Doesn't look like they're going to fill that DP spot, which I'm not mad about because honestly, they're going to have a new coach. They're going to have a new coach next season. And exactly, that's what Mr. Mister said. Their DP spot open for new coach. They don't want to make any long-term commitment to a player that they might not want in 6 months. They're going to leave some flexibility open for the new coach to bring in a player of quality that he actually wants. So I'm not mad about this. We'll see what happens. It's honestly, it's maybe a low risk, high reward because he's on loan. They're not actually buying him. So I guess it would be a low risk, high reward. Either he's good, they buy him. He sucks, they don't buy him. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what he can do. But this is another move that LAFC are trying to make their final push for an MLS Cup run in 2025. Now, this next move, this is one I just saw because it just happened not too long ago. Very surprising move. FC Cincinnati has agreed to a deal for Brenner to return from Udinese on loan. Now, Brenner was at the time, if I'm not mistaken, I know he was the all-time, he's the highest incoming transfer in Cincinnati history. And I want to say at the time he was bought in 2020 or 2021, he was the MLS record. If not, he's top 2, top 3. They sold him to Udinese, what was it, two years ago? And they're able to secure him back as a TAM signing. So this was a guy that they had signed and spent like $13 million back in 2020, 2021. And now they're able to get him back for this team in a TAM signing on loan, obviously. I don't think they'd be able to buy him unless the transfer fee was super low. Okay, so it was the summer of 2023 that they bought him, or they sold him for $11 million. But this is an interesting signing because obviously they have Kevin Danke, but they get another, I would say, quality striker. I don't think he was terrible when he was here at Cincinnati from 2021 to 2023. But this is a move that they make to really solidify the attack. And we already know that they have Evander. We know that he's having an MVP caliber season. Kevin Danke's been very good for Cincinnati this season. And they add more depth. Now, we'll talk about what they got rid of. That's the next thing we'll talk about because, we'll stay on the topic of Cincinnati. But this is a move where they are really pushing for this season. Like they're putting all their chips on the table to win MLS Cup in 2025. FC Cincinnati. And Brenner's the kind of I'm assuming he'll play a lot. I think he might start. We'll just have to see what they do. But this is a guy that would be starting for almost, I don't know, 24 out of the 30 MLS teams, probably 24 out of 30, maybe 23 out of the 30 MLS teams. And they're getting him back, a DP signing that they had from 2021 to 2023, getting him back on a TAM deal loan, low risk, high reward. This is smart business. This is a team I mentioned earlier. I said certain teams are sitting on their hands and expecting to win MLS Cup with their current build they have right now. Brenner, this is being very proactive on Cincinnati's part. And there are teams that could have used Brenner, like Seattle. If you could have got Brenner on loan for a TAM deal, where the hell was Seattle at? Where the hell was Seattle at for this deal? Where were they at? They need a striker bad. So Cincinnati is just shoring up their depth. They're getting better. They're already really good. And I'm going to be very curious to see if they're able to win MLS Cup in 2025. They're a scary team. We'll see if they can get the job done with what they built and who they signed this year. They've changed things up. They kind of obviously Evander and Denke was already having this thing on a different level. We'll see if they can finish the deal and win MLS Cup in 2025 or at least make a deep playoff run. So the next move that they made was that I'm talking about Cincinnati, that is, they traded DeAndre Yedlin to RSL. Now, DeAndre Yedlin was traded away from Inter Miami. I want to say in the offseason of 2024, he was traded from Inter Miami to FC Cincinnati. And I don't think DeAndre Yedlin has been bad for Cincinnati. I don't think he's been anything special either. But obviously, they moved off him because I think he was making around $1 million a year. I think they got some GAM for him, if I'm not mistaken. We can check and see if they have the listed I guess they don't have what they got in return for him. But either way, they moved off of him to give some roster flexibility because I know DeAndre Yedlin was making around 1 million, if not more than 1 million a year. So I would assume they had to move off of him in order to sign Brenner on a TAM deal. They had to move off of DeAndre Yedlin in order to sign Brenner for a TAM deal. And then RSL obviously gets a pretty decent right back. At least, he's decent in the attack at least. I don't know how. I mean, I'd never really heralded him as much of a great defender, but we'll see what he can do for RSL. We'll see if they can make a push and see if he can help this team. This is more just like I said, shedding salary on FC Cincinnati's part and trying to build better depth in the attack. And RSL, he signed a new deal with RSL. I'd have to see what he's making, but DeAndre Yedlin's not worth over 1 million a year anyway. So he's just not worth that in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. Not the craziest deal that I've seen, but it ties into what Cincinnati's doing. I'm going to look up who that last report was because I'm going to shift our focus over to Inter Miami, which is funny because I bet people would have thought I would have started off with them. But we progress. We're talking about all the things that we've caught up on, the big stuff first. So there's been a transfer collapse. Gonzalo Piovi's move to Inter Miami is off after the club failed to agree on a pay structure. What looked like a done deal is now dead in the water, barring a last-minute miracle. Piovi will not be wearing the pink and black this season. So, Piovi, he is a center back for Cruz Azul, and the reported fee, if I'm not mistaken, was going to be between $6 to $7 million. $6 to $7 million for Piovi. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, hold on a second. How can they do this move? Because Inter Miami already have 3 DP spots. They have one U22 spot, but he's 31 years old. He's not going to be a U22. I'm thinking, how can they do this? Like, what? There's no mechanism they can do this. They have already signed Rodrigo de Paul on loan. So they can't keep signing players on loan to avoid the transfer fee. That's just not going to work like that. They're going to have to figure out a way to buy him, but that's the problem. They can't with the way MLS is ruled, because I'm about to pull this up because I want to share this real quick. This thread I posted the other day. Let's see. I don't know why it's giving this like boost. I don't want to boost this tweet. MLS could, why is it doing that? Let me refresh it, see if that helps. Okay, here we go. MLS could make one simple rule that would change the entire league. Transfer fees should have nothing to do with the DP status, like what I've said. It should only be about salary. Right now, to get a TAM player, and this is true, you have to essentially buy them super cheap from their club or get them on a free transfer. And how many players can you honestly say are just sitting out there who are on a free transfer that are really good or going to be really cheap? Those are far and few between, right? And it limits your options. So this is how the rule works right now. And this is why the POV rule did not, or signing did not happen. MLS makes the transfer fee, whatever you pay, and averages it over the life of the contract. So if the average yearly cost is so if the fee is like $5 million, right? If the fee is $5 million and the contract is 4 years, you would divide that. You would divide that by the 4, so it'd be 1.25 million added to the salary. So let's say POV was making $1 million, right? He would be making $2.25 million, or that's what his budget charge would be. So he would be well over the where's that? $1.743 million dollars, which is what the max TAM threshold is. He can't be signed because the DP or the transfer fee counts towards a salary. So it was, and he would have cost more than five million. He would have cost 6 million. So it would have been even more money. And he probably would have been on a 3-year deal. So it would have been $2 million added to his salary. So if he was making $1 million a year, they'd be adding $2 million a year to his salary. So he'd be making his budget charge would be $3 million. POV would be. So it wasn't feasible to sign him. There's just no way. And they could have loaned him out, right? They could have bought him on loan or brought him over on loan. But why would Cruz Azul let go of one of their better defenders without a guarantee he's going to be bought? Why would they do that? Why would they do Inter Miami any favors like that? It makes no sense. Let's see. Paul says POV is overpriced. Mr. says POV isn't worth more than $4 million. William Mayer says, hi, Will. Good afternoon, bro. How's it going, William? Appreciate you for stopping by. SPH says POV would have been so good for Miami, but it's just chaos in Miami's ownership, and it's Mascherano is also stupid, brainless, basic guy. Well, he's funny as hell too, to be honest. Lunch Special Geo says Miami is set to sign their 7th DP. They don't actually have 7 DPs though. They only have 3. Now the Rodrigo de Paul signing is a little weird. I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little weird, but they have figured out a way for it to work. They're going to guarantee buying him next year, and he will be a true DP. Yes, Paxten Aaronson did go to the Rapids officially. He was announced today. He was announced today. And by the way, guys, we have 70 of you in the chat. Let's try to get to 100 likes. I think we're at 18 likes right now. Let's try to get to 100. Smash the like button down below if you haven't already. Share with a friend and subscribe to the channel. We got a big day. MLS Transfer Deadline Day. A lot of moves are happening. I'm going to have to keep up and see if there's anything I've missed while we've been doing the stream. The window doesn't officially close until 1 a.m. Eastern time tonight. 1 a.m. Eastern time is when the window officially closes. So there's going to be moves even after the stream. We're just covering everything that's happened up until this point. Still a lot of things going on. Mr. says they need to stop this DP nonsense and just let teams spend. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, that's what I wish would happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that we're far from that happening still. Sadly, I mean, I agree with you. I wish it would, but it's just not going to happen. I wish that we could just, loosen up a little bit at least. Loosen up. I mean, it's just ridiculous that it's not even just a Miami thing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that a team can't spend $5 million on a defender without them being a DP. Like any team should be able to do that. Not just Miami. Any team should be allowed to do this. So it's frustrating as hell. It's honestly frustrating as hell. I don't know why they still have these dated rules or they haven't modified them a little bit, but it is what it is. We just see what happens. I mean, you just got to get creative. Like Cincinnati signing Brenner on a TAM deal is very creative. Very creative. Speaking of Inter Miami too, I wanted to mention this. We know that they sold Federico Redondo. He went to Elche, if I'm not mistaken, of La Liga, $2.5 million for 50% of his rights. And that opened up a very, very precious U22 spot for Inter Miami. And they have signed, according to Fabrizio, I think it's done now, but they're going to sign Matteo Salvetti from Newell Old Boys. And he is an interesting prospect that I talked to a couple people about him, that he's very flashy, he's very pacey, he's very technical. He just has a problem with getting injured. And if you follow Inter Miami closely, that has been one thing that they always do is they sign these guys who are injury prone. They get injured all the time. All the time. So now they're going to pay like $5 or $6 million for him. I think we'll have to see what the uh, percentage of rights they're going to acquire for that fee. Like how much are they going to get? 100% of his rights, 50%, 60%, whatever it may be. But this kid clearly has potential. He clearly has potential. And I was talking to my friend Bolivian Yank. I was talking to him about what he thought about him. And he was just saying that he thinks his size, he's a little bit undersized for Major League Soccer because it is a very physical league, and that he might get beat up. He might get beat up a little bit. So, and this is obvious. This is going to be a replacement for Tadio Allende, who's been absolutely terrible for Inter Miami this season. He's been one of the worst players, probably the worst player in the starting 11 for Inter Miami in 2025. So this is going to be a Tadio Allende replacement. We'll see if they can get, what he can do. It's hard to rely on a 19-year-old kid, and he just turned 19 years old. So he's freshly 19 years old. It's hard to rely on a 19-year-old kid to come in here and be a difference maker, especially with a team that's built to win right now, or expectations are to win right now. It's going to be hard, but we'll see what he can do, right? I mean, can he be worse than Tadio Allende? If you watched the match last night, the guy missed like 3 or 4 chances. I don't know if he could be worse than that if he's healthy. And then also there's been rumors that Fafa Pico is possibly going to be on the move to Montreal in a trade. So they're going to need some depth on the wing. Now, Baltasar Rodriguez is a guy that a lot of people feel I don't want to say confident. That's not the right word. They feel like he has promise, but he just hasn't played enough. He has not played enough. Baltasar Rodriguez has not played nearly enough to give them the reassurance that they don't need to make a move. So that's what this signing would be. That's what this signing would be. So I think that's pretty much, unless I'm missing something, you guys let me know. Am I missing any moves? Because now I want to talk about some teams who are not going to make any moves. I want to talk about teams who are disappointing. I want to talk about some MLS teams who really haven't done enough, in my opinion, to push themselves to make a run for the MLS Cup playoffs. And I might miss a couple teams, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So the first team I want to talk about is the Seattle Sounders. Okay. Now, the Seattle Sounders have had a great run in this League's Cup. They are in the the semifinals. They beat Puebla barely last night on penalties. And they've had a good run after the Club World Cup. They only lost, I think this is their first. I don't think they've lost a game since the Club World Cup. Okay, they have. They lost to Minnesota by 1-0. So that's their first loss post Club World Cup, right? But the deficiencies of this team, if anyone has been watching this team, is that they cannot score goals. They can't score goals from their striker. Denny Musovski, their striker right now, has been decent enough to get the job done. Not good enough, I think, to win an MLS Cup, but decent enough in the meantime. And then Jordan Morris just isn't a striker, but he's playing striker when he's healthy. He's a disaster as well. Well, there was the rumors that they were going to sign Noah Ohio, but I think he's at Utrecht, if I'm not mistaken. Same team as what Paxten Aaronson plays for. The problem is they weren't able to get to an agreement with a fee at first, but then they could. And then Noah Ohio's like, well, actually, I don't want to leave. I want to stay in Europe. I don't want to go to MLS. I want to stay over here. So, and I think that deal fell through like close to like a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Seattle kind of went on this run where they were scoring a bunch of goals, And I think what happened is Craig Weibel, the general manager of the Seattle Sounders, thought to himself, "Wait a second, we're actually scoring now. I've got a free pass. I don't have to sign a striker now. We're good. We're good. We're fine if we don't sign one." But then reality came to bite them in the ass last night when they couldn't even score against Puebla, who's one of the worst teams in Liga MX. At home, they had to come all the way from Mexico to Seattle, and they could not score a goal on Puebla. And it showed the deficiencies this team had at striker. And it looks like they're not going to sign a striker, and this will be the fourth window in a row that the Seattle Sounders do not make a move. So I would say of all the teams, because of them needing a striker, U22, just to take a swing, I would say that the Seattle Sounders have probably been my most disappointing team this offseason, or this summer window. And honestly, they had a disappointing offseason too. I don't think they've really done anything. So I think they have had the worst summer window. They didn't sign a striker. Today's the deadline day, and here they are sitting empty-handed. Now, another team I wanted to mention. Now, listen, there are several teams that could be listed as not doing anything, right? Several teams could be listed as not doing anything. But I'm talking more about teams that I think could make a push if they do the right thing. And by the way, I have to mention this real quick. I want to give them a shout. We talked about them the last episode. I want to give a shout out to the Timbers. They signed I don't think he's Greek, but they signed him from Olympiacos, the winger, and then they signed Matias Rojas. They are actually doing really well. I think they've had a really good summer transfer window, the Portland Timbers. They've had a really good transfer window, the Portland Timbers have. A team that I think needed to have a good window was the Red Bulls. They were rumored to sign Timo Werner, and I don't know what really happened with that move, but it looks like it's completely collapsed, and they're just not doing anything. Now, they did trade for who's the backup goalkeeper? John McCarthy. They traded for John McCarthy from the LA Galaxy, but that's just not enough. Choupo-Moting is okay, but he's 37 years old. Like, they needed a striker who was, not 37 years old, some youth into this team, right? It feels like Emil Forsberg is just kind of being wasted. It feels like Emil Forsberg is just being wasted. And I honestly thought they were going to make a big move this summer. I thought that when they signed Emil Forsberg in the winter of 2024, I thought, okay, they're going to sign someone big. They're going to pair him up with somebody, right? Well, they didn't last summer. And I thought, okay, maybe the winter time. They didn't last winter. I said, okay, well, definitely this summer, right? They didn't this summer either. So 3 windows in a row, they have not given Emil Forsberg legitimate help. Okay, so yeah, Christopher Velde, yeah, the Norwegian. That's the winger for the Portland Timbers. But that's a hole that they needed to fill, and they didn't do it. Like, for example, the Columbus Crew sold Cucho Hernandez at the beginning of the season. We all know this. He was the most important player for them the last 3 years. He's a huge reason why they won MLS Cup in 2023, along with Wilfred Nancy. He's a huge reason why they won Leagues Cup in 2024. He's an integral piece. They miss him greatly. What do? They didn't have a replacement because of the way the window works. They did not have a replacement for him when the season started in 2025. But they made sure they signed. They didn't say, you know what, we're good, we're fine, we're in 6th place. We're 2 points out of 3rd place. We're just not going to make any moves. No, they went out and they signed. I think it's Abu Ali. I think the guy from Al Ali. I'd have to look up his name again, but Abu Ali, I think is his name. The striker from Al Ali, who is, I think he scored like 36 goals. Or no, he scored 28 goals, like 36 appearances for Al Ali. Very, very efficient goal scorer. They went out and they went and filled a need that they needed to make a run. They went out and filled a need to make a run. They didn't just sit there and say, you know what, we're in 6th place, we're good, everything's fine. No, they were proactive. They made a move. That's what you need to see. I'm disappointed in New York City. Now, New York City signed, I want to say, so Santiago Rodriguez was sold to Botafogo. They signed, what was the guy they signed from Elche? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Let me see real quick what his name was. but essentially it was just a one-of-one replacement for Santiago Rodriguez. It was Nicholas Fernandez. They signed him from Elche, and essentially just a one-of-one swap for Santiago Rodriguez. I don't even know if this guy's going to be any good. I mean, he might be pretty good or just as good as Santiago Rodriguez, but you sold a guy to essentially replace him with the same guy that might not be as good. It just feels like New York City FC is just kind of waiting for that new stadium to be built in 2027, and that's when they're gonna try. But there's definitely some under disappointing, uninspiring moves. And also too, one other team I gotta give a shout out for being disappointed is San Diego FC. San Diego FC is having an incredible season for an expansion team. Incredible. Now, someone was saying in the chat the other day that they think they might be the equivalent of St. Louis City SC in 2023, but I don't think they are. I think they're way better. Now, they had Klaus and Loven in 2023 talking about St. Louis City, and Berkey is obviously a good goalkeeper, but they never had a player of Anders Streyer's quality. Like, Anders Streyer is really good, like MVP. Like, if it wasn't for Messi, he would be battling it neck and neck with Evander for the MVP. Like, it would be a close call on who would be the MVP of the league. Maybe Andrew Stryer would win it because they're the best team in their expansion team in the Western Conference, but he has no help. Chucky Lozano has been disappointing compared to what his expectations were. He's not bad. He's just not as good as what people thought. Like, everyone thought that it was going to be Chucky Lozano's team and Anders Stryer was going to be the Robin to his Batman. But it's the opposite. This is Anders Streyer's team. He's the best player on the team by far. Like, he is way better than Chucky Lozano. And they could have had some help in the midfield. They could have had they could have tried to sign a striker, which I know that they don't really focus on that as much because it's more about the wingers and the strikers more interchangeable. They could have done something. They have a third DP spot open. They have a very wealthy owner ready to compete, and they didn't make any significant moves and said they weren't going to fill a DP spot this summer, which is very disappointing. Very disappointing because they could have been a legit contender. They could have been a legit team to win MLS Cup. I don't think they have what it takes. It's so hard to even compete as an expansion team, let alone win MLS Cup. And I just don't think that they made the necessary moves to really go for it in 2025. I don't think they did. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be competitive, but I don't think that they're going to be able to win it all. I just don't. I don't even know if they're going to end up finishing first place in the Western Conference. I think once Sun Heung-min gets completely integrated into LAFC, they're going to be giving San Diego FC a run for the money because they have 3 games in hand. They win all 3. They're 3 points behind. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think they play each other still. I think they have one more matchup. We'll have to see. Barry says, plus Brian has more influence on player acquisition than he should. He does. He should not. He should just coach the team. Barry says, I agree. Every single player on the roster should be available to move. I heard that same clip, body language of both told a different story. We'll see what happens. I don't feel very positive about the Sounders, especially because this fumble of not signing a move. Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Who do you think has had, I want to get you guys involved. Who do you guys think has had the best offseason? Or I keep calling the offseason because it is the offseason for the rest of the world. Apologies. Who has had the best summer transfer window in MLS this summer? Who's had the best summer transfer window in MLS? Who has had the worst MLS transfer window this summer? Best and worst teams this summer transfer window. Let me know in the comment section. Curious who you guys think has had a good one and a bad one. Eric says, you streaming the LAFC game on Saturday? Yes, I plan to do that as well. I will probably do that at least the next 2 weeks. Mr. says, you sit still in football, you go backwards. Yes, exactly. You can't stay the same. You have to improve every year. Yeah, and Vancouver's had, I think, okay, so you're saying Vancouver's had a good transfer window, or I mean, I assume they've had a good one because they signed Thomas Muller, and there was a center back that they're rumored to be signing, but I don't know for sure if they will be able to get that done. Ashcan says, hi, Will and chat. Ashcan, appreciate you for stopping by, my friend. Daily Archive says, worst is Austin signing Baleko, then letting him leave 6 weeks later. Yeah, Austin's been a disaster. Brandon Vasquez hurt his knee. The one guy they signed from the Liga, what was his name? Oh God, what was his name? He's been a disaster. He's been terrible. He's been terrible. Wade says the best transfer window is the Caps. The worst is Seattle. There's a valid argument to that. Seattle's done nothing. Ashkin says LAFC have had the best transfer window with Sun Heung-min's arrival. There's a lot of validity to that. I mean, signing him alone definitely changes a lot of things. Mr. Mister says LAFC thinks they've had the best summer transfer window. It's hard to argue with that. SPH says Vancouver didn't do anything except sign a washed Muller. I think Muller looked good though, man. I think he had a goal in the first minute of him coming on the pitch, and then he it was called offside, not because of him, but because I think Brian White, he looked pretty good. Wade Flores says the Caps made a ton of good moves this week. Yeah. What moves were those? Ashkin says other MLS pundits aren't fans of Drake Callender transfer. Yeah, Drake Callender got traded to Charlotte. I mean, he's been irrelevant the last year, so I don't really think it's bad or good. It's just kind of like, neutral. NYC have had an underwhelming transfer window. No one's business says LAFC is the best. I mean, I think the LAFC definitely have a strong argument to having the best window, especially if this this U22 Moran, if he ends up panning out, then they definitely have. Barry says selling Obed and not signing anyone would still be a net positive. Yes, it would. They'd have some money. They could have used that money to buy someone, and they could have cashed out on him. SPH says LAFC best, Miami the worst. I don't think Miami's had the worst. I think Seattle's probably had the worst because they've done nothing. Or San Diego. San Diego's done nothing. But they've been really good. But so they might get a little bit of a free pass, but they've been very disappointing. Have you heard anything about Bouanga to America after all? No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. He's going to be at LAFC for the rest of this year. Michelle says Minnesota's had a good transfer window, sold for a lot of money. Yeah, and they had what's his name, Pereira. He was, I can't remember what the report was, but someone offered $8 million for him, and they declined it. So yes, they have had a good window as well. They have had a good window as well. Yeah, so I think we've covered pretty much everything. It's been very active. There's obviously been stuff we've already covered, like Sun Heung-min, like Thomas Muller, Rodrigo De Paul earlier this summer. There have been so many moves. This has just been a crazy deadline day, and I assume there will be more stuff to happen. So we will see what happens. I appreciate you guys. I think we're going to call it here. We almost went 45 minutes. I appreciate all of you guys stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the stream. If you did, make sure you give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. And be on the lookout for some more content. We will be doing a live watch along for LAFC's match against FC Dallas on Saturday. And we have more Leagues Cup next week, which we'll be doing 2 live watch alongs for those games as well. Seattle versus the Galaxy, and then Inter Miami versus Orlando City. Hope you guys have a great remainder of your day or night, depending on where you are. Until next time, and Barry with a closed out super chat. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you, Barry. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.